Hello, U.S. history students. This is a video looking at the Electoral College. We'll explore how it works today, how it has worked in recent years, how it works specifically in North Carolina, and who our electors are, who cast our ballots for president. And then once we have that context, we will look at how the Electoral College worked in the 1824 election, which pitted Andrew Jackson against John Quincy Adams. Okay, so let's get started. The Electoral College is an odd system for choosing a president. A number of other countries have adopted many aspects of the representative democracy that we have in the United States, but no place else in the world has chosen to have an Electoral College because it's just odd. People in a state vote, and whichever candidate gets the majority of the popular votes gets all of that state's electoral votes. So that's basically the way it works. If you won 51 to 49% of the vote, you get all of that state's electoral votes. There are two exceptions, Maine and Nebraska. You can look those up if you want, but basically this is a winner-take-all scenario. So let's see how this works in action, in dramatic fashion. So right around the time you guys were born in the year 2000, there was a very close election held in Florida. It was held all over the country, but the Florida election was particularly close between George Bush and Al Gore. As you can see here, George Bush got 2,912,790 votes, and Al Gore in Florida got 2,912,253 votes. They were separated by 1/100th of a percentage point, and you can see here that's a difference of about 550 votes, so slightly less than that. So what that means is that George Bush got all of the electoral votes and Al Gore got none of them. And as you can see in the election, George Bush won 271 to 266, very close election. Gore actually had about 500,000 more votes nationally, but that was pretty much neck and neck. It's a very, very close election on all fronts. But if we look at how many electoral votes Florida has, the difference in electoral votes here is 5. So if there are more than 5 votes in Florida, Gore would have won the election if he had won Florida. And as we can see here, there are 25 electoral votes in Florida. So fascinating election to look at some point if you're interested in very close elections. This is the electoral map in 2008 when President Obama was elected president over John McCain. And if you look at this map here, you can see there are 31 electoral votes up in New York and 27 in Florida and 34 in Texas. That's no longer the way those numbers work out because every 10 years we do a census and we count the people in the United States, and some states have gone up in population and some states have gone down in population. And so what happens is some states, like Texas here, gain representatives in Congress. So now, before there were 34 electoral votes, which means that Texas had 32 representatives plus its 2 senators. Now Texas is up to 36 representatives plus its 2 senators, so it gets 38 electoral votes. California, with 55 electoral votes, has 53 representatives, and New York, which now is down to 29 and had 31 before, it has 27 representatives in the House of Representatives, and Florida has gained 2, so it's up to 27 plus 2 as well. If we look back to 2008, we can see that Florida only had 27, and now it is up to 29. So back in 2008, Florida had 25 representatives plus its 2 senators. So if we look at us here in North Carolina, we have 13 congressional districts. This is District 1. And then District 2 is over here. District 3 is along the coast. District 4 actually contains RTHS in it, but some of you might live in Wake County, and then you would be most of Wake County is in District 13 here, and if you live up a little further north, you might even be in District 6. And so there are 13 total congressional districts in North Carolina. That means we have 15 electoral votes. But if you look at this congressional district here, number 12, that's an awfully funny looking district. Let's zoom in on that for a second. This is a reasonably famous district here, the 12th district, that has Greensboro and comes down through here all the way to Charlotte, and it pretty much follows I-85. And it's been very controversial about whether those people have enough in common with one another to be a district. And we'll do an exercise in class looking at funny-shaped congressional districts, and this process of drawing districts in a way that benefits one political party over another is called gerrymandering. So this guy over here is Elbridge Gerry. He was a famous politician from Massachusetts. He was governor of Massachusetts, and also, as you see here, served as vice president of the United States under President Monroe, the fifth president. And when he was governor, he helped shape a district for electing senators in Massachusetts that people said, that's a funny shaped district. That looks like a salamander. So you add Gerry and salamander and you get gerrymander. And so this happened right around the time of the War of 1812, which we just studied. And this political cartoon was a reaction to the newly drawn state Senate election district of South Essex. And it was created to favor the Democratic Republican Party over the Federalists. And when you do that, when you draw a district to favor one party over another, that is called a gerrymander. North Carolina is one of the more famous gerrymanders, but you've got one, the 4th district in Illinois, and the 4th district in Louisiana also look pretty strange as well. So these are examples of famous recent gerrymandered congressional districts. So now that we know how the Electoral College works, let's see how it played out in 2012 in North Carolina. So this is Mitt Romney, and that is Barack Obama. And in 2008, Barack Obama carried the state of North Carolina. But in 2012, the state went for Mitt Romney. And let's look at the numbers. So Romney won by about 150,000 votes. Sorry, bad math. About 100,000 votes. 2,200,070 to 2,178,000. So not quite 100,000 votes and only about 1 or 2 percentage points, but it doesn't split the way you might imagine, where maybe Romney gets 8 and Obama gets 7 because it was so close that you'd split the 15 electoral votes. It's winner take all, and so Mitt Romney gets all 15 of North Carolina's electoral votes because he won the popular vote in the state, the same way that President Bush won the popular vote in Florida back in 2000 by just over 500 votes. So as you've probably heard it said, the people who technically vote for president are the electors. And when we vote in North Carolina, we select our electors. We select the people who represent us. And they got together in December of 2012 in Raleigh, the state capital, and they met. And if for some reason you wanted to click on this link and watch their meeting, you could do it. But basically they say, we promise to vote for Mitt Romney. There's actually a Wikipedia page you can look for, and these are the presidential electors from North Carolina, and these are all their names, and they have all been pledged to Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. And if you click on this little link here, it actually takes you to the official document where these people are pledged to vote for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. And it's very official looking. It comes from Governor Perdue, and it certifies that these were the votes. And if we scroll down here a little bit, we are pledging all of our votes, all 15 of our electoral votes, to Mitt Romney for president and to Paul Ryan for vice president. And then all those electors sign. and it's pretty much a formality. If you get the popular vote, you're going to get all of the electoral votes, but occasionally there's something called a faithless elector, and that's when somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do. It's never really affected a election before, but if you are curious, you could Google faithless, faithless, elector, and you can get some details about that. So now that we understand how the Electoral College works, let's apply it to where we are in the course, to the election of 1824. And as we've talked about in class, John Quincy Adams defeats Andrew Jackson, even though Jackson has more popular votes and more electoral votes. But in order to win the election outright, you would need a majority of the electoral votes. And in this case, that would be 131. And as you can see, Jackson doesn't have that. And all of these candidates are Democratic Republicans because, as we've talked about, the Federalist Party at this point is dead. And so there's a split within the Democratic Republican Party. There are also two other candidates, and that further splits things up. William Crawford and Henry Clay come in with 41 electoral votes and 37 electoral votes. And so what happens if nobody gets the majority of the electoral votes? Let me move this over one sec. Okay, now you can read the edges here. If nobody gets a majority of electoral votes, the election goes to the House of Representatives. And the top three vote getters are the candidates, and each state gets one vote. So back in 1800, if you recall, Jefferson and Burr tied, even though they were supposed to be running mates, and that took 36 ballots. And what they did was amend the Constitution in the 12th Amendment to fix it so that presidents and vice presidents wouldn't run against each other. But now in 1824, it seems like Jackson, with the popular vote and the electoral vote, if you don't have a majority, but you have the most, it's called a plurality. So he has those pluralities. He got the most votes of anyone. It seems like he should win, but there's some sort of a deal that's made. And John Quincy Adams ends up winning. And because he brokers this deal with Henry Clay, and because Henry Clay becomes Henry Clay is Speaker of the House, and so he has some influence in the House. And Henry Clay is appointed as Secretary of State to John Adams, which is a really powerful position. This deal is called the corrupt bargain. Here are a few more details. You can read this yourself, but I like this quote from Clay, who detested Jackson. And he said about him, "I cannot believe that killing 2,500 Englishmen at New Orleans," a reference to the Battle of New Orleans, which we've talked about, which made Jackson a famous war hero, that killing shouldn't qualify you for the various difficult and complicated duties of being president, the chief magistracy, as they said at the time. And so when Clay threw his support to Adams, it didn't take 36 votes, it just took one ballot. And on the first ballot, Adams wins. And that's what the map looks like when each of the states had one vote, and Adams gets the majority and becomes our sixth president. Not to worry, Jackson will, as we saw in the Animaniacs video, learn to play politics, and then he will come back and win the election in 1828 and in 1832, and he sort of changes the course of American politics. And we'll be talking about that as well. But see if you can write down how the Electoral College works for homework, and it should be about a paragraph or two of your own words, and then we will discuss that and do an exercise looking at gerrymanders in class. All right, thanks for watching.